welcome back to NBA Talk on the KD Pod. Today we have a interesting episode. Off the top, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals through two games. Game two just finished up last night. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. And then the main entree of today is the top 10 players in the NBA right now. We purposely made this incredibly vague. I texted Jared earlier in the week, and there's so much criteria that you could place to figure this out, but I wanted to have it purposely vague so we could just compare and contrast. And it was a tough list to figure out, to say the least. So off top, Celtics Warriors are in the finals, man. Two games in, first two games in Golden State. Initial thoughts?
Yeah, I only caught sort of the second half of game one, but yesterday I was locked into game two. Seems like the general reaction from people is that both teams are playing, pretty well at the top of their games, and it's fun basketball to watch. I think you have the top two defenses in the whole NBA, so you certainly got teams that work hard, that clamp up, and then I would say both teams are kind of known for ball movement. So I think aesthetically, people are pretty satisfied with the finals and how it's gone. Yesterday was interesting. I think the whole technical situation with Draymond was particularly interesting. It's what I want to bring up to you. You have Steve Javie come on the air and say, he sort of supported the ref's decision to not give Draymond that second technical foul. And Steve Javie sort of admitted that refs take into account, how many technicals a guy has before, making the decision. So I guess throwing it back to you, do you agree with that decision to sort of not eject Draymond? And do you think refs should, have some context when making these decisions?
Yeah, this was obvious in the moment. If Draymond were to get kicked out, it would have been a huge, huge controversy. And as a Celtics fan, I was like, don't kick him out, because he's gonna go kicking and screaming into the tunnel and somehow give them momentum for this game, and then come back in Boston and somehow have this bigger chip on his shoulder somehow. I get it. Refs are humans. They're not robots. If that was a regular season game, Draymond would have gotten ejected. He was just messing with people all night long, and he already got a technical. So what is he doing, having his legs over Jaylen Brown's shoulders and then try to take his pants off? That's some nonsense that is easily a technical foul. Do I think they should have teed him up there? No, I don't, because that would have been ridiculous, and it would have been a huge controversy, which they reviewed it and easily decided not to. So I agree with their decision not to kick him out.
Yeah, it's funny. As a fan of, either team, I think you're always just looking for, you're looking to give the least amount of excuses to the other fan base. So I think if he was ejected, that certainly would have been on the table for the Warriors to, complain about. And I think regarding the play, obviously Draymond's feet were in Jalen's face. And it was funny that the first person to react was Draymond was upset that Jalen threw his feet off his head. So it wasn't that Jalen was barely mad about the feet thing. It was somehow Draymond got mad at the fact that a man wanted to not have feet be in his face, and it was just ridiculous. Jalen didn't even really escalate it. So I'm rooting for the Warriors in the series, obviously, but Draymond is nearly impossible to root for. The one foul he had on Grant Williams off the ball when he kind of just drove Grant Williams into the paint and just fell down. I think Marcus Smart gets sort of lumped in with the Draymond Greens and the Kyle Lowrys of the world, but I think yesterday you could kind of see how they're not even on the same level of ridiculousness. I would say maybe if Smart was maybe if Smart had a little bit more desperation because it was a game they needed, maybe he would act as crazy as Draymond does. But I mean, Draymond is kind of he's one in his own because yesterday was truly a masterful performance of ridiculousness from him, I would say.
And that's what they needed. That's what they needed. And he didn't do any of that in game one. He actually played pretty terrible in game one. He was 2 for 12, had 4 points, and was turning the ball over left and right. We're seeing this theme in the playoffs once again of just momentum, and almost momentum that's so large we have never seen these big of swings in NBA games, and as long as I can remember. A 30-point lead seems like it can happen in 4 minutes. We're watching yesterday, and it was the third quarter. The Warriors always come out hot in the third quarter, and it was a 6-point game halfway through. And next thing you know, it's like a 27-2 run or something. Like, that's ridiculous. Where it's the 3-point shooting, it's the you feel good, I feel good. We all have the green lights. Let's just let it fly. And if the Warriors, it's really just who's hitting that day. Like, the Warriors and the Celtics both have enough weapons to just start hitting everything. And it kind of accumulated with Jordan Poole at the end of the third quarter, in and out cross from half, just water. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, that's ridiculous.
I was like a few minutes behind. I was watching from a little bit behind, and I got a text from my friend about Poole hit a crazy shot and it was super deep. So I'm watching, and there's about 35 seconds left, and Poole's got the 2-for-1 going, and he takes like a step back three from a few feet behind the line. I was like, oh, that's a nice shot. But I was like, that's not that deep. I don't like, why did my friend text me about that? And then they get the rebound with 4 or 5 seconds left. I'm like, this is going to be the deep one. Ridiculous shooting. I'd say overall with the Warriors, kind of disappointed in how they've played outside stuff. Watching them, I'm not, I don't think Wiggins, I don't think Poole, I don't think Clay has really, showed up to the point where I'm more confident with a Derek White, ISO or pick and roll right now than I am with, Wiggins or Poole or Clay. I mean, Clay obviously shot terribly yesterday, but I guess I expected more from Steph's teammates. And as a Celtics fan, I guess I'd be confident with the fact that, no one was really putting their stamp on it. How do you feel as a Celtics fan?
I think you did what you needed to do. You came away from Golden State with a split. You got 1 win. I don't like how the momentum was. It's kind of tough to win the first one and then start out hot and then keep it close and just get blown out right at the end of the game. That kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth going into the next game. And I think it was a bad loss too. It was, to go 25 plus points without scoring is ridiculous for a finals team. So there's some things that make me a little worried, but we're going back to Boston. We got a split. Like, I couldn't really ask for much more.
Yeah. When Poole hit the shot, Ime took out all 5 starters to start the fourth. Did you agree with that? I was watching with someone, and he was like, why is everyone out? Like you said, games can swing so quickly. It seemed like last night's game wasn't going to swing, but it was sort of interesting to see Ime bench the starters. If they're down 1-0, like, there's no way he benches the starters, right? There's got to be some psychology in that a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, they're definitely 30, 20, and 30 are so much different. Like, you have in 2 possessions, if it's 20-point lead, you could make it 12 almost, but 30, the game's over. Especially if there's a quarter left, the game's over. So he didn't really put in the bench warmers. He had Pritchard, White, Naismith, Grant, and Tice out there.
Yeah. He had like 6 through 10, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was the right thing to do. You don't want to
Yeah.
like wave the white flag, but you want to, not play Jason and Brown because they weren't playing well. Horford played awful too. They were turning the ball over. That's the theme for the Celtics. If they turn the ball over a lot, which they have a weird thing about finding momentum for that, like if they're turning it over, it seems like they're just always turning it over. That's kind of the thing. They just got to take care of the ball. So I'll be around TD for game 3. Definitely not buying a ticket, but I'll be at a bar nearby rooting them on, and then hopefully we get a win. So looking forward to the first finals game in Boston in 12 years for sure.
Yes, sir. Can't be a good experience at a bar, can it?
Oh yeah, I mean if it's right next to,
yeah.
I don't know if you ever.
No, I would just worry about being able to hear and see, I guess, but it's definitely fun.
Oh yeah, I think it's seating, so we'll make it work. All right, so NBA top 10. If we had done this like 2 weeks ago, might have been different. If we'd done it a month ago, 2 months ago, this list is just so ever changing, which I think is fascinating. Going through this list, you really see how deep the talent in the NBA is right now, which is great if you're an NBA fan. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to do top 3, compare, top 5, compare, and then the top 10 and some honorable mentions. So I'll get us started. All right, we got top 3 here. At the first one, the most unstoppable player on earth is Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's number 1. He's the best, most unstoppable player on the planet. If they have Chris Middleton, they're probably in the finals right now. And he is just destroying Draymond right now. Like, that's all they would have to guard him, and he would be absolutely dunking on him at every possession. So Giannis, number 1. KD, number 2. He played terrible this playoffs, but he's still Kevin Durant. And then LeBron James at number 3, because he almost led the league in scoring. His team was buns, but if you put him where Tatum is, the Celtics are exactly where they are now. Like, you put LeBron on any team that's a playoff surrounding caliber team, he's putting him above the rest. So that's my top 3. What you got?
Yeah. I have the identical top 3 in order, which I love because we have, I think we both have slightly different criteria, and we didn't discuss this at all. So I love that we have the same top 3. A few things, I guess, with Giannis. I really liked how he handled himself in the Boston series, as you said, without Chris. With Chris, I think, like you said, they're probably in the finals. But without him, I just think he put in a really nice performance, doing everything, scoring points, creating offense for his team. I'll always remember that game 5 in the Garden. I think they were down 6 with like 2 minutes. He hit that big 3 at the top of the key. We talked about it, and then missed the free throw, and then they got the offensive rebound. It was a meltdown by the Celtics. And yeah, I just thought Giannis was huge all series. Really can't complain about his game whatsoever. Every year he gets better, works his absolute butt off, just wants to win at all costs. So I agree, he is number 1 for me. And then I went KD and LeBron. I think I was surprised you had LeBron 3rd, especially as a Celtics fan. I can't remember what your exact opinion on him is as a player, because most Celtics fans I know are pretty strong haters. But I do think, with a good cast around him, he still has the ability to, be the best player in a series against most teams. And so, yeah, I have an identical top 3 as you.
I love that. That's great. Most casual Celtics fans hate LeBron, right? But I'm a little more savvy of a basketball fan, I'd like to think. And LeBron is just absolutely incredible. Like one of my favorite things to mention in terms of, my basketball watching, career, whatever you want to call it, is 2018 playoffs. Watching LeBron all the way up to game one of the finals where J.R. Smith, did that mess up play. And that was the best I've ever seen any basketball player ever play, in my life. He was not only all these things physically and mentally, which we already knew, like he's a point guard, he's 6'9", he's, 250, all these things, but he was hitting this to the left step back from the left wing like he was Steph Curry. Like it was actually knocked down. I think he hit 6 or 7 of those in a row against Toronto. In Toronto, when I think they called it like LeBronto. That was a game or something. So there's my tangent on LeBron, where he's the best player I've ever seen. He's just old now.
No, I couldn't agree more. 2018 especially, it's just like a special playoffs for me. Obviously, it was the year we graduated high school, but you had the Warriors and the Rockets going at it in the West, and then you just had LeBron absolutely tearing apart the East. 7-game series. 7-game series with Boston was incredible. I mean, his teammates were, Kevin Love was still around, Green. But it was Jeff Green, Jordan Clarkson, George Hill, all these guys. And then game one, as you said, I think he had a 51-point triple-double, just absurd game.
Absurd.
I know podcasters like to, I think it's Bill Simmons likes to mention that's like one of the greatest games he's ever seen live from a player. So yeah, I mean, 2018 LeBron was incredible. And yeah, I think he's got a little bit more in the tank. Hopefully the Lakers help him out a little bit. But I miss him in the playoffs, honestly. So I want to see him back next year. I really want to see him back.
Seriously. As does most of America. With LeBron not in the playoffs, there's a little something missing. All right, so 4 and 5 here. This is where I went to the centers, and it was pretty easy. It was I just went the MVP first and then the non-MVP second. So it's Jokic and then Embiid.
Non-MVP.
That's right. I just give it on a word. Who do I think is better? Like, it's tough because I like how Embiid plays defense. I like how Embiid is a super plus defender, while Jokic, his passing is amazing. He makes everyone better, but he's in the playoffs. Like, you just put him in pick and roll, and someone like the Suns can just sweep a team like that. So I went Jokic and then Embiid because of awards and I don't know, advanced stats, whatever you want to say it. But yeah, that was my 4 and 5. Jokic and then Embiid.
Yeah, so I don't have them 4th and 5th. I don't have either of them in the top 5 for me. I do have them flipped. As you mentioned, I have Embiid slightly ahead of Jokic, but obviously a coin flip there. So yeah, I went with 2 other guys as 4th and 5th. And this is sort of where we get into a little bit of different criteria about how I rate guys. I think so. I have Embiid and Jokic. Yeah, I was showing my list to my brother. He was like, "Where's your guy?" I was like, "Come on, like, I know I rant about him, but I'm realistic about it." Anyway, I have Embiid and Jokic 7th and 8th on my list, actually, and I guess that comes from just how I value centers a little bit, maybe lower than some. My 4th player is Luka Doncic, and my 5th player is Kawhi Leonard. When we talk about criteria, obviously he hasn't played in 12 months, so I do believe he'll have a really nice season next year. And those are my 4th and 5th. I guess for Luka, obviously his playoff performance speaks for itself. He's an incredible playoff performer in his first few years in the league. We both like the idea of a 6-8 point guard who does everything. So I think that speaks for itself. And yeah, I just rate him super highly. When it comes to Kawhi, he was obviously incredible in last year's playoffs before he messed up his knee. And I think if he gets healthy next year, he's going to remind us that he is in that tier with Giannis, KD, and LeBron. So that's who I have with fourth and fifth.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. With Kawhi, Kawhi's just hurt, so it's hard to, it's hard to rank him. Honestly, if he's healthy, I think he can be the best player in the NBA. Just his offense. I don't want to say Michael Jordan, but he has that quiet killer clutch mentality that you combine that with just the freakishly large hands he has and the defensive capability. Like, he's got everything. He's got everything you'd want besides leadership capabilities. That's really it, or playmaking. But okay, I completely get that. So Luka, I think we disagree a little bit here. 4 for Luka. My biggest thing is his defense. He is a minus defender on defense. Being a two-way player is the most impactful type of superstar in today's league. If you are a minus on one end, in the playoffs, you get hunted and you get picked on and tired out and get in foul trouble. And you see it with these players like, I want to say Curry, because Curry's actually gotten better as a defender, but there's really none left in the playoffs, which is interesting. Luka is gone, Harden is gone. Trying to think who else.
Jordan Poole.
Yeah, Jordan Poole. They can't really play that small death lineup anymore, but there's a lot of those players, and that was my one criteria. So I actually have Luka much further down on the list, but so I'll flow right into the rest of my list then. So my top 5 was Giannis, KD, LeBron, which we agreed on, and then I have the 2 centers, Jokic and Embiid. So 6 through 10, I have Steph Curry.
Yeah, you just want to go to 8 maybe, because I feel like
sure.
The last 2 might be. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I have Curry, Kawhi, and Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is almost like a game-to-game type of player. Like, one game, man, he'll look like the next coming of like Dirk or Larry Bird or something, and then the next game he has 7 turnovers, and I want to break my TV when I watch it. So that, like, man, it's tough, but his ability to shoot the 3, play defense, his size, all these things. Tatum at 8, and then Kawhi at 7. Again, what I said with Kawhi, he could be the best player in the league. He's just hurt. And then Curry, man, it's really tough to be a fan against Curry. Like, really, really tough, because he's spectacular, and everything he makes, it's like a dagger. It's like almost everyone is a dagger, because he needs this much space to get it off, and he can shoot it from anywhere, going at any speed, which is just, it looks so difficult, and you're waiting that high arcing 3, and then if it's in the Chase Center, the crowd goes crazy. It's one of the biggest weapons in the league in terms of, fans loving it, and its skill level. So that's my 6 through 8. What about you?
Yeah, this is the first series I've rooted for Curry since probably 2014, like, legitimately. So I definitely don't relate to the struggling to root against him. Every Cavaliers finals I've rooted for LeBron, every Rockets playoff series I've rooted for the Rockets. So it's weird rooting for him this series. He obviously is incredible. We both have him at 6, actually. So we're together there. And then our top 8 has the same 8 guys, except you have Tatum, I have Luka. So yeah, I definitely want to discuss the 2 of them. my top 8 rounds out with Embiid and Jokic, like I mentioned. So we both have 6. We both have Steph at 6. You have the 2 centers right above him. I have the 2 centers right below him. And yeah, I guess let's get right into talking about Tatum versus Luka. It's a funny comparison because my friend texted me probably 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "I think Tatum's better than Luka." Luka was going crazy in the game 7 against Phoenix, and he was playing pretty well against Golden State. And my Celtics friend was like, "I think Tatum's better than Luka," and I said, "I think you're crazy." But now you brought on the same argument, so I definitely want to discuss it. I think our major difference in thought is the defense, in terms of you value it super highly. I think Jason Tatum got a first team all defense vote this year, which I think is a little premature, but ultimately he's an excellent defender. And Luka definitely lacks there. So, if we want to use that argument, totally understandable. I think what Luka does on offense is, transcendent. I don't think we're arguing, how good both guys are. They're both amazing. I just value sort of what Luka does on offense a little bit more than Tatum because, he is a pure point guard, sets everyone up. And yeah, Tatum obviously has inconsistencies, but I mean, he's so young. I don't really hold it against him too much when he has up and down games. I just value the point guard spot a little bit more in terms of, creating offense for the entire team. And it's not like Luka doesn't have, an ISO game or a step back game. I think it's all still there. So I value Luka's offense a little bit higher. The defense is obviously a concern. But I guess I'm curious, do you rate Tatum's offense higher than Luka's? And is it just the defense, or is Tatum just better on both ends, do you think?
Good question. The offense, I think it's unfair to just kind of label it as offense. I think that, you could segment it into, scoring and then playmaking. In terms of scoring, I think Tatum is better just with he's more athletic. He's got more of I don't want to say more of a bag, but he's just got, I'm trying to think here. He's definitely a better scorer because of his athleticism. And then he shoots a much higher percentage from both 3 and 2. Luka, that's kind of been his thing, is he'll launch, but he's going to shoot kind of mid to low 30s from 3 and shoot mid to low 40s from the field. But then you go to playmaking, and then Tatum's average to getting better, and then Luka is, Jokic level. He's got that European eyes in the back of his head, spectacular creating ability, which definitely gives him an edge. But just like Jokic, that playmaking and offensive skill is making up for him being really slow, consistently out of shape, a negative defender. And my thing with Luka is his usage. He loves to just dominate the ball like Harden. And that type of basketball, where you got 4 dudes standing in corner A, corner B, wing A, and wing B, and you're just watching the dude who's gonna set me a screen, and I get a switch, and then I go ISO, and if I get a double, I whip it to whoever's open in the corner. That type of basketball is getting played out by good teams. Maybe that's Luka with bad teammates. I don't know, but
yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point, and sorry to interrupt, but I mean, it's literally just a Harden conversation over again in terms of, I value that guy a little bit higher than you do. It remains to be seen, if that wins. Harden made 1 conference final with the Rockets, maybe 2. Luka has now made 1 conference final. There's a good chance Luka never makes the finals because this way of playing, like you said, is just not, it's not that profitable, honestly. I love watching it, and just like I'm thrilled to watch it, and so maybe that's why I'm ranking it higher. But in terms of winning basketball games, winning championships, I mean, I think there's a good argument that that style of basketball is just not going to work, and you'd rather go for the two-way player. So I definitely don't have any beef with those takes. It's probably you're probably making the right argument, and I'm probably just my my
What do you
the
like
way
about it?
the way I like to watch basketball, I guess, is just clouding my judgment here.
So what do you like
I
about it?
like I like this. I like walking it up the floor and dissecting the defense. I think that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I love, ISO basketball is fun. I love watching it because I don't know. It's just not to sound like ball don't stop, but it's just so pure. It's literally me and you, and can I hit a shot over you? It's like as simple as that. And then there's obviously wrinkles out of the basic stuff that the former Rockets and current Mavs do. But it's pretty simple. It's just mismatch hunting. And yeah, I just love watching a guy dominate at the peak of his powers. The step back is fun to watch when it's going in. It seems unstoppable. I love, the passes, the cross court passes, which Luka does really well. Harden does. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, almost everyone hates it. Most people think it's, aesthetically unpleasing to watch a guy dribbling for the whole time. But I just prefer it over ball movement. I don't know what it is. It's really just like a weird bias I have, but that's how
Okay,
I view it. Yeah.
so going into this is I just pulled this up on Basketball Reference. This is a great thing to look at. It's highest regular season usage rates of all time. So number one, obviously Russ in his MVP year, 41.6% usage in 2016, 2017. They were a first round exit. Number two is Harden in 2018, 2019, 40.4% usage. And that's, the amount of playmaking he's doing for his team. And then Kobe in 06 when he had 80, 81. And you have Russ again in 14, 15 when KD was hurt. 5 is MJ, 38.2 in 86. 86, his second year in the league. I think he was MVP, but they lost to the Celtics in the first round. AI in 01, Giannis in 2020, Luka this year, Embiid this year, and the last one in the top 10 is Luka the year before. And you look at all these seasons of these players, first round exits. When you just give someone the ball and say, do everything for us, I don't know. Would you want to be on a pickup team where one dude brings it up every time and shoots 40% of the time and then passes the other 20%? And, if you're just other dudes on his team, you're kind of like disengaged. You're not as enthusiastic. You're not moving the ball as much. You finally touch the ball once, you're like, oh crap, I got a shot. I got to shoot it. And it's not in rhythm. Maybe it's not a good look as good as you could get. So that's just my gripe with the usage guys like Harden, like Luka, like Russ, where if you have the ball that much, a basketball product that you produce, it's kind of a little gross.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're in the majority there. Most people hate it. I'd like to separate Russ from the other two in terms of, efficiency, I'd say. But I mean, your point still stands about, how often one guy is touching the ball. I think Harden's, most successful years, he had Chris Paul next to him. I think if Luka gets, a guy that he can trust next to him, maybe he sees the finals. But back to my original point, yeah, this type of basketball probably has a ceiling. And I don't mind ranking Luka that high because I think while he may be the reason for the ceiling, he's also, the reason why they're in the conference finals to begin with. So I'm fine with my ranking, but definitely totally understand you having Tatum above him. I'm curious what your 9-10 looks like, and how many guys did you have in the mix for those two spots?
It was so what I had was Jimmy Butler and then Luka as 9 and 10. Again, gave Jimmy the edge because of two-way ability. and then his performance against the Celtics in the playoffs. He's looking like LeBron a little bit out there. But then, like you've mentioned, he has the tendency to like just completely disengage in games if he doesn't, feel like he's gonna win or like feel like it's worth utilizing the energy, which is a little weird. But I didn't really have anyone else like I didn't consider anyone else in that top 10 because the other guys kind of dealt with injuries, had down years. So I had Jimmy and Luka. Why don't you give me 9, 10, and then your honorable mentions as well, and kind of who else you considered?
Yeah, so we had 9 of the 10 the same. And I genuinely felt like I was doing this unbiasedly, but I left your Celtic out of my top 10. I had him 11th.
I'm fine. That's fine. Honestly,
yeah,
that's understandable.
It's close. It's obviously close, and I think it was just a year ago that I was telling my Celtics friends I didn't think he was top 15. I genuinely didn't at the time, but I mean, he's just gotten so. I think he had a much better year than he did last year. Obviously, first team All NBA is nothing to frown at. He wasn't a top 5 player, but the way the positions work, he was on that team, and so you have to give him his respect. Another first team All NBA Devin Booker. He's in my honorable mentions. I don't think he's in that top 10, but I mean, you have Luka 10th, you have Tatum 8th, and Booker's out of your top 10, and all 3 of those guys made first team All NBA. So that kind of shows you, that only goes so far with those awards. I did have Jimmy 9th, I think, as you did. And yeah, last time we talked, I was kind of destroying him a little bit and saying the Celtics should be confident going up against him in the conference finals. And then he just absolutely blew me away with his performance. I think he had multiple 40-point games. Game 6 in Boston was just incredible. Like you said, reminds us of 2012 Game 6, LeBron in the Garden. I mean, just hitting every shot, hit threes, just absolutely phenomenal performance. Really can't say anything bad about him. And then in the post game, he's giving all his credit to his teammates. I mean, he's pretty hard to root against. He doesn't grift for fouls. He almost never falls on a jump shot. Like, he refuses to try to like get fouls calls. I think maybe inside he goes for foul calls, but he's never trying to draw stuff on the outside. He pretty much just wants to get his buckets. So yeah, I mean, he was just incredible, and I can't really deny those performances in the playoffs, despite how frustrating he can be to watch in the regular season. So I had him 9th. And then, you said you didn't really consider anyone else for the top 10 because guys were injured. I have an injured guy at the 10 spot, which you can probably guess, and that's Damian Lillard, who I have 10th.
Yeah.
Similar to Kawhi, I think he could easily just have a really good year. Similar to how I feel about Harden. Obviously, Harden was healthy, but I mean, I think these guys who have put together, first team All NBA seasons in the past, who just, get a little banged up, it's just so easy to forget about them. So I do think next year I'd want Dame slightly over Tatum. It's obviously very close, but once again, just like Kawhi, Dame was so good in the 2021 playoffs. The one game against the Nuggets where he had like 3 threes in the last like 40 seconds. I mean, he's just so ridiculous to watch. So maybe this is my bias towards point guards, but I'm going to rate him 10th. And yeah, maybe it's just my bias against the Celtics. I don't know. I haven't confirmed that I'd want Dame over Tatum. I never really discussed my criteria. My criteria is, who do I want in like a 7-game series? So I don't need him for the whole year, but I was just thinking, I might want Dame over Tatum in a 7-game series, but it's close.
Wow. That's, I couldn't disagree more with the Tatum Dame thing. Tatum is he's like almost 6'10" and can shoot an ISO step back 3 just as well as Dame can. And you can't teach 8 extra inches of height and that much length and that much youth. Like, sure, you could throw a little criteria of like next 5 years, like, career trajectory. But my thing with Dame was so he played a little bit of this season, right? And then he got an ab injury or something. And that's a weird injury. That's like, that affects your every movement. So his shooting was terrible. But you look back a month or so, and in the Olympics, when Dame was playing in the Olympics, he was playing awful. They couldn't even play him. And you look at the roster, that's kind of a good indication of like who has more value when they're all on the same team.
I forgot they played on that team together. I think he was hurt. I thought he was hurt in the Olympics. Maybe he wasn't, because like I
heard it was the ball. Like he couldn't. He didn't like the FIBA ball. Like, let me see here. I guess he couldn't get like a good grip on this style of FIBA, the molten. And I'm like, dude, it's a basketball. Like,
guys were complaining about guys were complaining about the Wilson earlier in the year. I'm gonna do some research on that Olympic run for Dame, but yeah, he was awful. What do you that's fair. What do you project about him next year?
Yeah, I think
that's all this is. Like, I'm saying once he's healthy, I think he'll be. I think in a 7-game series, I'd really want him. Is what I'm saying. So yeah,
I'm just like, he has no defensive value at all. He is like average playmaker, maybe above average playmaker. And then it's just about like how is his shooting? If you look at his playoff stats outside of that game winner against the Dwight Howard Rockets, the game winner against OKC and PG, and that game against Denver where he was cooking Austin Rivers. You look outside of those 3 series, he actually shoots like 30% from 3, 35% from the field, 19, 20 points a game. He's actually not that good in the playoffs when he's not just hitting a buzzer beater and torching dudes. So he's kind of hit or miss, as a lot of these players are. But if you can't bring that defensive value every game that doesn't rely on hot shooting, I think it's more valuable to have like a playmaking, versatile defensive guard rather than a high usage, high pick and roll every time, launch from 30 feet guard. And that's kind of what we're seeing. Unless he's unless he's shooting like Curry, man. Like, that's the difference. You got to be Curry.
I think
Curry.
Yeah, I think this is obviously similar to the Luka conversation. I guess what I'm thinking is, if I had to pick one player to sort of have to build around, and I can't really, I can't know who my guys are around him. A guy like Luka, a guy like Dame is sort of an offense onto himself, and I'm valuing that a little highly. If Dame has, if Tatum doesn't have Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, all these switchable guys, all these guys who can create their own shot, can he sort of do it on his own, sort of thing? So I guess I'm valuing the do-it-yourself guys a little bit more. But to your point, the ceiling is much higher with a guy like Tatum, Butler, two-way guys who, you need a good team around them, but the ceiling can be higher. So I guess that's where we differ. And then who are your guys just on the fringe?
I had Anthony Davis, Dame, and then Paul George. What do you have?
Yeah, no, that's good. I honestly forgot about PG and AD. I'm kind of just keeping to the side because he's just been poor for a while. I had Ja Morant and Devin Booker, not necessarily on the fringe, but just guys to look out for. I really liked what Ja did in the playoffs. I was sort of skeptical about how his game would translate, and it's certainly not foolproof that he'll be a great playoff performer, but kind of torched the Warriors. I mean, he torched them in one game, and then I thought he played pretty well in the others. His shot's obviously a question, but he just had that sort of look in his eye that even though he's not a pure shooter, he's just going to get it done when it mattered. So I was really impressed with his performance in the playoffs this year. And I'm not a huge Devin Booker fan, but he was awesome in the playoffs last year. Yeah, I guess I'd be curious to see if he can break in a few years. But yeah, like you said, PG and AD are probably much more likely to get back in it next year than those young guys are.
Yeah, AD. I think AD he's like his stock is really low right now with the injuries, and then there was some ridiculous stat for the beginning of the season where he was a historically bad jump shooter, like one of the worst jump shooters of all time to start a season or something. And once that gets tweeted out, that can kind of mess you up, and then you strain your calf, which he's always injury prone. But if you ask me this like right after the bubble, I think AD's like top 6. I remember doing this. He was 6 or 7. Just because it's the two-way ability. He can be that. He could shoot a 3. He could post up. He can get you a bucket on offense, and then he can also be a all defense type defender. Like that is, man, that's so hard to find. So hard to find.
His jumper in the bubble was obviously amazing, and then it just completely fell off since then. And it doesn't. I think it sort of matches the eye. I mean, I don't think he's got an ugly jumper, but the shots he was hitting in the bubble were just crazy. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if his jumper never really returns. His defense is phenomenal, like you said. But unlike Embiid and Jokic, he can't have really a high usage. That's not the type of player he is.
He defers.
He's just an incredible number 2. And yeah, I rank those guys a little bit lower than you do, but yeah, he's as a number 2, he's phenomenal. So maybe LeBron can bring him back to the playoffs, and we can see just how good he is.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last notes on that top 10? I think we got a cohesive list. So just run through it one last time. I got Giannis, KD, LeBron, Jokic, Embiid, Curry, Kawhi, Tatum, Jimmy Butler, and then Luka Doncic, with AD, Dame, and PG peeking over the fence.
I have Giannis, KD, LeBron as my top 3 as well. I have Luka number 4, Kawhi number 5, Steph number 6, Embiid number 7, Jokic number 8, Jimmy Butler number 9, and little old Damian Lillard at number 10. James Harden's looking over the fence, wondering when his day will come where he's back in it. And that is what I'll leave you with.
Word. All right. This has been NBA Talk on the KD Pod, and we're out.